Hey, I'm Nicole, your host of the Work, Wealth, and Travel podcast. On this show, we're going to be talking tangible action that you can take in order to achieve the life you thought was only achievable after retirement. Everything you want now in life, you can have it. Will it take hard work, patience, and uncomfortable growth? You bet it will, but it will be so worth it. On this show, we will be deep diving into the topics of lifestyle design, travel, entrepreneurship, and everything in between. I myself am a global citizen and world traveler who left my home country and conventional lifestyle behind for a life of adventure and following my passions. And that's exactly what I want for you. It's your time to love your work, build your wealth, and create the lifestyle you've always dreamed of. Let's do this. Welcome back to another episode of the Work, Wealth, and Travel podcast. This is our Digital Nomad Digest segment. So I am here with myself and my co-host Cami, and today we are going to be chatting about the different types of digital nomad lifestyles. Everybody does digital nomading a little bit differently. So today we're going to dive into how these different lifestyles look for digital nomads. One size is definitely not fits all in this space. So Cami, why don't you start and take it away?
Yes, hello, welcome back as well. I'm Cami. I'm co-hosting the podcast, as Nicole has said. I have my own podcast called The Blossom Experiment. I am originally from Brazil, and I'm also a digital nomad. So, of course, for this podcast. So I love today's topic because it goes into something that we have discussed before, which is like this idea of authentic living and just creating the life that fits you instead of you having to fit into a life. And I think that we mentioned a lot about that. Like we talked about this in our previous episode, in our first episode together, in which both of us wanted to create a life that was unique for us and fit our own unique needs and wants. And instead of like just running the rat race and going into what society wanted for us, we really
Lifestyle
focused
design.
on we focused on like finding this new way of living. And I think that as much as you can have like the same way that you can have this society mode of corporate job, 9 to 5, get married, have a house and kids and blah, blah, blah. I think that in the digital nomad space, you also have this kind of mode, quote unquote, that sometimes when people look at it, it looks like you have to do it in one certain way. So I think that one of the ways is like the van life. I think that's very something we see on social media. And then people are like, okay, I'm going to become a digital nomad, so I have to get myself a van. And just like road trip around. Or I feel like people, when they listen to the word, like the expression digital nomad, they instantly think about people living like 3 months in each place or 1 month in each place and just like moving around a lot. And I think that it's really important for us to look at being a digital nomad as another lifestyle that you have to understand how to make it fit your unique personality and your needs and your wants and your values, instead of you having to fit into another mode that is not the 9 to 5 corporate job, but then it's the mode of digital nomadism, you know? So I think that it's a very interesting conversation for us to have, for sure.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up because I 100% like I could not agree more. And I'm thinking back as you're saying all of this, I'm thinking back to my journey before I was nomadic. And I was living in China and I was really consuming all of this content online on social media, like you said. And I totally thought there was only one way to be a digital nomad. And I feel like since then, that was like a few years back, since then it has changed a little bit, but that was really the beginning of being a digital nomad. And I saw all of these people on social who were staying in one place for a week or even less than a week sometimes, or 2 weeks. And then they were going to a different city or a different country. And like, I was like, are you always on a plane every month, like going
You
somewhere?
live in a
You know,
plane.
it was yeah, basically. And so it seemed very like fast paced. And I was like, this is the way to be a digital nomad. But I think since like having been in this lifestyle and traveling full time for the last year and a half, I've really realized that it's so beautiful because the beautiful thing about this lifestyle is that you can do it however you want. In the beginning of our journey, usually we would stay one place for a week. I feel like we do have a somewhat short attention span sometimes when it comes to like accommodation specifically. So, but now we've kind of settled in a little bit more to the lifestyle, and we'll stay one place for like 2, 3, 4 weeks usually in one accommodation. And then we can move to a different accommodation in the city or go to a different city or country altogether. But I feel like it's really slowed down. I think for some people that might still be fast paced, but for us, from where we started, it has changed significantly. And I think it's really just like figuring out your vibe and what you want to do and what this lifestyle looks like for you. And I feel like the first year is a very transitory phase where you're really just figuring out. Did you find that as well, or what did it look like in your journey?
Yeah, totally agree with you. Yeah, it's interesting because for me, um, 4 weeks in one place is still really fast, personally. So what I found in the beginning of my journey, like 2 years ago or 2 years and a half, was that in the beginning I wanted to have a lot of freedom of mobility. So I wanted to go everywhere, because I think that we have this saying in Portuguese. I feel like I always bring sayings in Portuguese, that you go with a lot of thirst to the bowl. So which means like when you have been constricting yourself for so long that you just want to like do it all, you just want to eat the entire thing. And I think that in the beginning, maybe that happens to a lot of digital nomads. They have been not traveling and not living in this way for so long that when they actually start, they're like, oh my God, I want to visit all of the places. I want to go everywhere. I want to be in all of the cities, all of the countries at the same time. And I was a little bit like that. And so I was just like moving around and, wanting to just like, I remember this time that I was like, I don't know, in 7 countries in like 1 month, like, or 2 months. It was crazy. I was like always on planes and everything. And at the same time that I love airports and I love planes, like I've always, since I was a kid, I've loved airplanes and airports for some weird reason. It's so freaking exhausting. Like it's super tiring to have to pack. Like packing is like ugh, and then going through the whole like security blah blah blah, waiting for the plane, and then going on getting to the next destination, having to understand like how do I go from here to the to my Airbnb, what's around my Airbnb, like until you get kind of like settled, you're already moving again, And I remember that in the beginning I was like, no, like I can't do it like this, like my nervous system is already stressed enough. Especially because I think that when you're traveling all the time, at the same time that you're seeing so many different and beautiful new things, it's also really impactful for your nervous system in like a health way, because you're traveling all the time, you're really like, we don't realize, but just the stress of, which is like a mini stress, but it's like the stress of like having to be somewhere on time, having to understand like where to find food, where to find shelter, it's like basic survival needs that for us, our body identifies as a stress, as like flight or fight, like I need to survive, it's like basic survival things. So I started realizing after a while that was taking so much out of my energy, and to the point that I couldn't focus on my projects. I couldn't focus on finding clients, and like bringing more money in and like things like material things and practical things like that. So at some point I was like, okay, I need to find my like more stability. I remember there was this time that I was living in Portugal and I had my the place that I was staying in, like a guest house, rented until like Saturday, and I think it was like a Thursday, and I was like, I still have no idea where I'm going. Am I going to Milano to stay with my friend? Am I going to I think the other option was like Spain or something like that. Or am I gonna stay here? And I remember being so overwhelmed by it. I was like, you know what? Fuck this. Like, F this. I can't anymore. Like, I can't go through this anymore. I am going to lovingly, like with a lot of love for myself, I'm going to give myself the like luxury, quote unquote, to have the stability, So then from that point on, stability started becoming something that was really important for me. And so whenever I would choose a next destination, I wouldn't go for less than 3 months. Like if I knew, like knowing that I would stay in the same place, in the same apartment for at least 3 months. And it's crazy how like 1 month or 2 months will pass by so quickly. You feel like you got to the new place, you blinked and it's already passed. So for me, it evolved, like it changed in this way. Nowadays I still am valuing a lot stability. So yeah, for me, like 4 weeks is like I would get there, like about to rest finally. Oh my God, I'm in my place. Get up and pack your bags again. Oh my God. But yeah, I think it's really interesting because for you, I think, I don't know, like it's, tell me your opinion or your answer. Like for you, maybe staying 3 months in one place, you might feel like constricted, like there's something choking you. Oh my God, that's too much. I don't know.
Yeah, I actually, it's so interesting. And like, I love having this conversation with you because we have such unique perspectives. And, there isn't a right or a wrong, but I totally resonate with everything you just said, even the negative of, like sometimes, usually we do stay in a place for, I would say like a month. It's kind of become now. But after a month, we're very like, okay, what's the next place? I think in order
Mm,
to stay somewhere 3 months, that would have to be like somewhere where we're like, living. I mean,
obsessed.
no, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But, for like tax purposes, I was like, okay, I might need to stay in like specific countries for 3 months. At one point when I was kind of on the journey, and I was like, 3 months, like that's a long time to like commit to anywhere. It's kind of like a
Wow.
destination commitment issue. But I think how it would probably play out is we would stay in somewhere for probably 2 to 4 weeks, and then if we really loved it, and sometimes we'll do this, if we really love it, then we will extend it and extend it further. Like a good example is, so right now we're in this, I really like this Airbnb that we're in Asuncion in Paraguay. But then we are like, we don't want to leave Paraguay quite yet, but we're going to go to a city like an hour away. It's a very like tranquil, relaxing little lake town. So I feel like that is kind of how we like to switch it up, where it's not too far, it's like an hour
Mm.
away. Um, but to just kind of, so basically like my partner and I, he has a big backpack and I have a suitcase, and that's all we have. So to pack everything up, I actually love packing things up because it just means I can get rid
Oh,
of more
wow.
things. And I've always been such a minimalist. Like the more things I can get rid of, I love, which sometimes becomes a problem because I'll get rid of clothes and I'm like, I haven't worn this piece in like a month. I'm gonna get rid of it. And then like 6 months down the line, I'm like, oh, I wish I still had
Oh, I
that.
needed
But I feel
that.
like that's kind of just like the nomad lifestyle, is like you have to get rid of some things. And so I'm very conscious on what I spend my money on. A lot of things I spend my money on are experiences or things that are online. Having an online business, like I could sit on my laptop for 10 hours a day. I love just being online, learning new things, running my business, like just anything online. So a lot of my money goes to either online or experiences and not to physical things or groceries. Um,
Mm.
delivery
Food,
food, a lot of my
for
money goes
sure.
there as well. Food is, yeah. And it's so interesting because in every country, you're right, there's different food. We're in a different place. I don't know what restaurants are around me to order from. I don't even know sometimes the delivery app. Like here in Paraguay, it's Pedigo, yeah. And I've never heard of that. Like that's not in any, maybe they have it in Brazil, but that's not in any other
Yeah.
country that I've ever been to, in Colombia or Mexico. So I was just like, okay, I need to figure out this whole new app. And it's also not in my language. And, we have friends. It's nice because one thing I do like about it is that we'll meet friends from all over the world in these places. And yeah, I might not see them for another year or two because we won't be back. But then I always try to connect with everyone on Instagram so I can see where they are and what they're up to. And then we connect in different places around the world, which I love. But there definitely can be struggles of this specific lifestyle of not having the same people around you and not having even, the same accommodation, the same food around you, not knowing where to go. My diet's pretty specific. I'm a pescatarian. I try to not eat too much gluten. So it can be pretty hard, like not eating meat in most countries. First of all, good luck. And then not eating
Hmm.
bread, also good luck. So it can be a little bit tricky. So I totally do feel you. Like it can be very overwhelming, but I also think I've gotten so used to this lifestyle now that after we've been here for 3 weeks now, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of ready. I've settled in, like I'm ready for the next destination.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting to hear like your perspective on this as well. One thing I will say that even when I stay for like over 3 months in a place, I'll still end up traveling somewhere and then coming back. So using this place as a base, and then I will get this like itch of like, ugh, I've been here for too long. Like I need to go somewhere. So it's interesting because like I've been in Greece for almost 1 year now, and I traveled always at the 3 month mark. So I stayed for 3 months, went away for 2 weeks, came back, stayed for more like 3 more months, went away for 3 weeks, came back, just went stayed for 3 months again, so just went away for 2 weeks. So it's really interesting how even when I don't even plan it. I'm not like, okay, I'm just gonna stay for 3 months and then I'm gonna travel. Well, it's like it just ends up like naturally happening because I have this, I don't know, like it's just part of me nowadays. So I always will try to go somewhere because I get bored, I get like I need to see something new. Even around like I'm living in currently in an island called Crete here in Greece. So, it's like it's not in the mainland, it's not a yeah, it's not in the mainland. So even around here, I'll try to like get the car and then go for like road trips and weekend getaways and things like that. So I think that even that is also a type of digital nomad in, like you're living in a place, but at the same time, you're kind of like moving around, but going back to your base. And then you're also inside of like in the place that you're living, you're also moving around and everything. And I think it's just finding out what really works for you. I think that there is a specific downside, and I think we also could make a podcast about this. But for me, I think the biggest downside or the thing that I most miss about this lifestyle is feeling like the place that I'm in is not mine, because I'm always either like subletting or being in an Airbnb. So the decorations are not mine. I can't really go like, why the sorry, I don't know if I can curse or not, but like, why would I go to like IKEA, buy myself a bowl or like a, furniture, and then have to sell it after 3 months just to feel like it's my home? Like it's kind of useless, a little like, yeah, it doesn't make sense, at least for me. So you just end up feeling like you're always like at someone else's place. And I feel like that sometimes impacts my, I don't know if I would say my mental health, but impacts my sensation of feeling like I'm at home, that I'm being held, that I have my space in the world, that I belong, like, like these deep emotional things. I think that sometimes this lifestyle takes away from me. I don't know if you feel that as well.
Okay, I think this is such an interesting topic. I'm so happy you brought this up because I actually feel the complete opposite. So I think that
Oh,
this is going to be
wow.
like really interesting to dive into because, so kind of rewinding a little bit, and I know I mentioned this in my intro last week, but I left Canada because I didn't want, like the mortgage, the 9 to 5, the 2.5 kids. And I really also left because I realized that I could start dividend investing. If I invested my money, I made dividends and I could basically have passive income that way. But I had to geo arbitrage my life, meaning that I had to live in a country where I was making either the same salary or more, but cost of living was so much lower. So even Shenzhen, China, which is a pretty expensive city, was a lower cost of living than Canada. So that's kind of a big reason why I left Canada and then I just never went back. So for me, I have never wanted anything material. I know I said I was very
Mm,
minimalistic and I like being a minimalist and just having one suitcase, but that really flows over into almost every area of my life where I have no desire to own a car, own a home, like own, I don't know, a kid right now, like any of those things. The one thing I miss is like a pet,
a
but I can
cat.
live with
I
that.
knew we were gonna say that.
Yeah. But I guess like house sitting is kind of a solution. It's not your pet, so like that is kind of the one thing I do miss, but a pet isn't going to be the same as living this lifestyle for me, and I know that like I'd much rather have this lifestyle. So for me, I actually want as few things as possible, and like I love staying in other people's homes because I don't want the responsibility of having a home. And I know a lot of people when I was younger would say like, "Oh, when you grow up, you'll feel differently." It's like I'm almost 30 this year and it hasn't changed. So it's really just my how I want my life to be and my lifestyle design of what my life looks like. I don't want to own a bunch of things. I don't want to own a couch. Like, I don't want that. So I love living in other people's places that are nice and beautiful, and I can rent them out for a month and be like, okay, where's next? Like, let's get like a beautiful beach house with a pool. Our next place is like a really cute cabana with a pool and an outdoor barbecue and like super cute, but like I'm not going to pay that for my own house. I just want to live in someone's for a month and then like kind of like hop to different places. So that's my mindset on it. And my partner and I talk about this a lot. The only property or only thing really I think I would ever want to own is rental property in different
Mm.
countries around the world, but I wouldn't want to live there. I just really want that for the passive income.
That's so interesting because while you are talking, like I can resonate with parts of it as well, but I can also see this like little part inside of me that's like, but I want a place with my own, like the frames that you hang in the wall and they are yours and your friends and your family and things like that. Like I just want that. But at the same time, I'm like I was thinking like recently of the next place that I'm moving, staying for 1 year, like getting a contract of 1 year. But then I'm like, oh, but like I think that I want to go to Cape Town in September, like when it starts getting summer there. Like, what am I gonna do with this 1 year place? Like, should I just wait? Then after Cape Town, I'm like, okay, now I'm finally getting this 1 year contract somewhere, and then I'm like, yeah, but what about like this other destination? So it's really like conflicting inside of me because I have this part that really wants to just like settle down, have a base and everything. And then there's this other part that can't stay more than like 3 months. I have to either go for 2 weeks or just go forever. So yeah, I don't know. Like it's really interesting. For me, I feel like the dream way for me to do this, but then like there needs to be a like I have to make this financially possible. The dream way for me would be to have a base somewhere in the world where it's like mine. I don't sublet it. Like it's just mine. It's my apartment. Whatever happens, I can go back there. It doesn't have to be my own, like I bought it, but like I have a contract. It's my furniture, like my decoration, my clothes, like everything is in there, and then I can just travel around for 3 months and then go back there, stay in it for 1 month and then go back again. Like that for me, I think would be my dream way of doing this for now. But for now, I can't afford paying like two rents, like one rent in my base place and then one rent like wherever I am in. And I don't know if I would like to like rent a place and then sublet it with all of my stuff. I think I would feel a little bit weird. So yeah, I don't know. Like I think these are some of I think it's interesting having this conversation because those are the things that digital nomads have to think about and whether this makes sense for them or not. And then what are the options that we have inside of this life, because at the same time that you want so much freedom and you want to be able to like just move around, you also maybe have like this other side to you that also misses stability. I don't know, like I watched some videos on TikTok of these people buying like Amazon products for their homes. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like, I really wanted this, mop or like this, specific, like this glass, like glasses and everything. I'm like, I wanted to decorate my house and everything. But at the same time, then there's all of the other things that I want to do. So I think it ultimately boils down to what we were mentioning in the beginning of the episode, which is what are like you understanding yourself as a unique person and then understanding what is your authentic way of digital nomading and what are your needs, your wants and your values so you can create or like design your life in this aspect, like this unique way for you, like this personalized way for you.
Yeah, and I love that you bring design your life. Like I love to call it lifestyle design, but it's all really the same concept. I love that you bring that into it because it's so true. And I think your way of seeing it is so interesting of you would love to have a home base and then also travel. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds, like the digital nomad, a little bit sedentary, and then you can just go anywhere whenever you want. So like it really is the best of both worlds. I feel like a lot of people would love that lifestyle because it is difficult, I will say, sometimes to be limited to, in my case, like one suitcase. Thankfully, I don't really want too many material things. Like I'm like, oh, this is a cool lamp, but like I'll never get it. And that's okay because like
Mhm.
I'd rather travel full time. And for me, I think that's the priority is like I see something great, but then I'm like, I'd rather travel. So like it's actually not that great. Just kind of like on the scale of things. But yeah, I like that you bring it up because I think having that very intentional lifestyle design when you are creating this lifestyle is important. And I think it comes after a certain period of time. Like, I think when you're very new and starting the digital nomad lifestyle, like you said, you were a different place every week and like country hopping, and we were the same. And so I think you kind of have to, a lot of times, get that out of your system almost, if that makes sense, because
Yeah.
you have this newfound freedom and you can go anywhere and like life is so exciting, especially if you're in like Europe or Asia or South America. Like you can travel to so many countries. We were in the Balkans. We started in Istanbul and then we went to like 10 different countries all in that area because you can just take a bus or a really short plane ride and it's amazing. Like that place will always have a special place. That part of the world will always have a special place in my heart for me personally, but yeah, you really like after that kind of like burst is out of traveling and like doing all the things all the time and new place like every day. You kind of like really realize what you actually want out of this lifestyle. But I think for you, it sounds like it could be really interesting to in the future figure out like what continent you like. I feel like that's also very important. I know for me and my partner both, because we did so much growing up in when we were living in China. We both lived there. I was there for 4, he was there for 8 years. So for us, like it's Asia. Asia is just what we know, what we love. My partner speaks Chinese, so it's like that's China's very home to us. I call China my second home. But I've traveled all of Asia. He wants to travel more of Asia. We have always toyed with the idea of eventually like building a home in the Philippines, but now I'm just like, I don't even know if I want a home for myself. Like I feel like I would just Airbnb it out half the time. So what's the point of building a home? I'd rather just have a rental property, but that's like a whole other can of worms. But for us, it's Asia, and probably we'll end up living in Asia when we're a little bit like more settled full time. And then you have the ability to travel Asia, and then like Hong Kong's a hub for everywhere in the world. So that's nice too.
I think for me it would be Europe. Like for me it's easier I think here because although I'm Brazilian I have European passports. Funnily enough I actually have two. I have Greek, Italian, Brazilian passports. So I can live here. I can like get whatever I want here, you know? So I think for me it would be easier here, but who knows? And it's to be honest, like where I um feel the most aligned. I don't know, it's really weird. But I think that one thing that I was thinking about is like when I was in Asia, that I was traveling around with first, like when I first got there for my yoga teacher training, I had like a suitcase as well, like a luggage. And then eventually I was like, okay, not going back to Brazil, like life rock bottom, blah, 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 blah. Going to stay here. And then I remember that I was like trying to travel around Asia with this huge suitcase. I was like, you know what? No, like impossible. And I remember that I could like it was such an interesting story. I was staying in a guest house and then I was like in this mini island like called Nusa
Nusa
Lembongan. Have you
Penida.
ever been?
Yeah, I've been
It
there.
was
It's
the small
beautiful.
one close to it. It's Lembongan, Nusa Lembongan.
Yes,
It's
yes,
like
yes, yes.
right
I haven't
next
been
to it. So it's like the really, really small one. And I remember I was staying in this guest house and I really wanted to buy a backpack, like a big backpack, because I was going to Thailand afterwards. And in Thailand, I was going to spend like 2 weeks just hopping around between islands, like more like traveling. And I was like, I can't do this with this huge backpack. You know, it's gonna be like take it on the boat, take it off the boat, and things like that. So with this huge luggage, so I was like trying to find a backpack, but I was in this tiny island. And I remember the owner of the guest house. I asked him, I was like, hey, do you know where I can buy a backpack here? And he was like, oh, you want a backpack? Interestingly, I want to sell mine and I'll sell it for you for I don't know how many, like Indonesian rupees, but it ended up being like 20 or 30 euros, like super cheap. I was like, oh my God, yes, please. I went out, took the money, bought his backpack, and it was like a 50, 60 liter one. It was like really good quality and everything. It wasn't super pretty and cute, but like it did the job. And I remember that I think I gave the cleaning lady my luggage, and I was like, do you want this? I don't need it anymore. Gave it to her, took the backpack, everything fit in it. I don't know how, but it worked. And then I was there like going on with my big backpack actually, and it was really helpful. But at the same time, like now in my life now, I can't imagine traveling with a backpack. I would kill myself if I had to fit everything that I have in a backpack. Because although like I'm also just for the past 2 years I've been living with the same things, but I've been here for almost 1 year now, so I know I bought a lot of things. So I'm really curious how it's gonna fit in my in my luggage in 1 month,
I was
because in
gonna
one
say,
month I
like,
have to
what
leave.
do you travel? What do you travel with? Do you have just like one piece of luggage? Do you have like the whole ensemble? Like, what do you have now that you travel
No,
with?
it's like just one, like a backpack and a luggage. It like,
Oh my
but
gosh, good luck
again,
fitting everything in there.
yeah. And then like, so this has been for my time here. Whenever I travel like for 2 weeks or something like that, then I take like just a carry-on with me and a backpack. And I managed to fit like everything that I need. Like I just went to London and Lisbon. London was cold, Lisbon was warm. I was like just gonna be like the most minimalistic person ever, wear the same thing every day, but I have to make it work. But yeah, I don't know. My boyfriend, he was like, Camille, you have too much stuff. I don't know how you're gonna move, because and I already made like this separate little bag that I'm gonna donate to something to my friends and give them some stuff and maybe sell some stuff to like some people. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. That's gonna be an interesting journey, which I'm not looking forward to because I hate packing. Um, but yeah, so one thing that I was thinking about while you were speaking was about this idea of like defining the what is important for you in that moment, and allowing yourself to evolve with that. So in the beginning, for me, it was more like mobility, to the point that I was like, I'm just gonna put everything in my backpack and not care about it. Nowadays, if I stay for too long, just like moving around and moving from place to place and everything, I actually start missing like the ability to home cook for myself. I love cooking for myself. Cooking is something that is super big in my life. I make myself like the most beautiful breakfast ever. I love making my lunch. I love making my dinner. I love cooking for people. Like I love cooking. So if I'm somewhere that I'm only eating out, it makes me I feel disconnected from myself, from my unique, authentic self. So I know that if I'm traveling somewhere, I need to stay in an Airbnb or somewhere that has a kitchen. Like I need to, because I feel really bad if I don't have the access to a kitchen. And I think that, of course, you learn those things in your travels. Like, it's something that I learned for myself. But I think that it's also super important that you have the self-knowledge and the self-awareness of what is important for you, and then implementing this, like merging this lifestyle with who you are authentically. What do you feel about this? Do you have
Yeah,
like
I
some
think
things
that
that you think are really important for you, and you make sure that you
um
always have it?
that's a really great question. I think the kitchen is important for me for different reasons. When we first started this, we would basically just order out all of the time, and I do not like cooking. It is one of my least favorite things to do. Personally, I think it is a waste of time when I could be making money, I could be running my business, I could be doing so many other things, to buy the groceries, to bring them home, to cook, to actually eat, to do the dishes. It's just so time consuming for me. But so we did order out a lot. But now it's kind of shifted because of, well, a lot of because of my dietary. And then my partner likes to
Mm,
cook. He is a cook. He had restaurants in China, so he likes the cooking aspect of things. But for me, it's more of just like the health, and I can't usually find what I want to eat to just order anymore. So I kind of have to cook. But for me, like give me avocado toast and like an apple with peanut butter and like I'm happy all night. That's like my level of cooking. But I do think like now that we're kind of in this lifestyle a little bit more, like a kitchen is something that we basically always need. So we don't usually stay in hotels anymore. We used to a lot, and they would have like free breakfast, which is great. But then you have to eat out for the rest of the day and like buy
Yeah.
little snacks. So we usually will do like Airbnb or some type of apartment, and we do like to have a kitchen. We do I'm just trying to think of like what else. Like I feel like a kitchen, I personally now, because we were just in Medellin a few months ago and the bed was so small. So I like to
Mm.
have like a queen bed if possible. So I kind of actually check for that. Other because my back was starting to hurt and I had to get massages. And so I was just like, I need a good place to sleep as well. And it's interesting because we were just talking about this the other day. Now, because we both have calls, he is like always like live streaming or on calls, and like I'm always doing my podcast. So we like to have multiple bedrooms. Whereas before it
Mm.
would just be like a studio is fine, but now we like to have at least one or two bedrooms so that we can go in and actually do our own thing and like not be interrupting each other, bothering each other. And then another one that my partner more so likes is a pool. If we can find a place with a
Mm.
pool, like so bougie, but he's like he loves the pool lifestyle. So like a pool or a hammock, but that's kind of like a bonus. But we have figured out together the things that we need, which is, the kitchen and the bedrooms. And for me, I always look like on Airbnb, I always search and I'm like, what amenities are in the kitchen? Because I love a freaking blender, but no place will ever have a blender. It's so rare. So actually, I think we're going to go to Brazil soon. I know Brazil has Amazon. So I think I was telling you this before. I'm going to order
Yeah.
like a portable blender because like I just need a smoothie in the morning. I could eat smoothies 3 meals a day and be so happy. And like, that's my level of cooking, FYI. But yeah, like I just need a good smoothie in my life, and it's not possible in most Airbnbs. And I know a lot of other nomads have that problem with smoothies as well. Like that is not an uncommon problem, surprisingly.
No, I've had that problem as well. And the way that I figured out was that I bought a hand blender. Remember that I told you about it? That you tried and it spilled all over the place.
It
But yeah,
went so bad, but I think I did it the wrong way.
no, yeah, I think you have to immerse it because it's called like a hand immersive blender. So, but I had the exact same problem because the first place that I got here in Crete, they didn't have oh my god, I've stayed in one in Portugal that they didn't have an oven. I It was
That
so
happens
hard
a
for
lot
me
too.
because I
Yeah.
love cooking and I love making like sweet potato like baked sweet potato fries in the oven and like ovening the veggies in the oven. Like it's so quick, like you just chop everything and then you throw it in the oven, then you don't have to do anything else with it. And when I got there, I was like really happy with the place and everything. I was like looking around the kitchen, blah blah blah, and I was like, oh my god, he doesn't have an oven. And I remember that I stayed in this place, I think for 2 months without an oven. And then eventually, when I found another apartment that I shared with a roommate that I met there, we had finally an oven. And I remember for the first entire week, everything that I could do in the oven, I was doing in the oven. I was like fish in the oven, chicken in the oven, potatoes. Like I bought sweet potatoes, like a lot of them, and everything. Like all of the things that I couldn't do, I made sure to make them. So it's like small things that if you have like your house, and you're like, you don't think about it because it's like default, it's like, of course, quote unquote, I have a blender. Of course, quote unquote, I haven't, not everyone, but like, these things that like you're kind of used to. So I totally get the, the blender thing, and the oven for me was really, really hard. And I think it's interesting because it comes with the experience, of course. But I think there are some things like if you are listening and you are someone who's already in your digital nomad journey, I would say that I don't like my advice, quote unquote, would be to go into like maybe make a list, of like what are my wants and needs and what are my core values in my life, and then define like what is important for you, and also what do you value in your life, like freedom of time, or for example, like cooking for you, it's not important. Like for me, it's super important. It's like my self-care, so like this is a value that I have, so I have to have a structure that is conducive, I don't conducive with that. And I think that for you is the same. Like you have to have your structure that makes sense for your life and your values. And if you're not a
Multiple
digital
bedrooms.
nomad
Yeah.
yet, sorry?
The multiple bedrooms. Yeah, like totally. For
Yeah,
you, it's the kitchen. For
exactly.
me, it's the bedrooms.
Exactly. So it's like if you, and the it's like the lifestyle should support, and the structure of it should support your authentic way of being, your unique person, not you having to force yourself to fit into the lifestyle. And I think that is so important, not only as a digital nomad, but in life in general, because we constantly will try to mold ourselves in this weird position to fit some specific lifestyle when it's actually the opposite. It's like, for example, I don't know, like if you are seeing like people on TikTok, 5 a.m. wake up or whatever. Like we were just talking about this like 10 some minutes ago before starting the podcast. If it doesn't fit your personality, like don't do it, but then what inside of the 5 a.m. morning routine makes sense for you? Like the meditation, the journaling, the exercise, how can I fit those things into my day without having to force myself or fit myself inside of this constrictive way of living that is not supporting me? And I think that for digital nomads is the same thing. Like if I am not feeling comfortable, if it's not supporting me, jumping from one place to the other in like 1 week or 1 month, then I'm not doing it. Like I'm giving myself I'm allowing myself, quote unquote, like, or giving myself the luxury, quote unquote, of being in a place for like at least 3 months, and then assessing from there. And then if I want to stay longer, I'll find a way to stay longer. And then if I want to travel, like having my place but then traveling for 2 weeks, and making it work for you. And I think that if you're still not a digital nomad, it's also making this list of like looking at your priorities, your values, your wants and needs in the life that you already have. Like what is working for you in the life that you currently have? What are the important aspects of the life that you already have? And then how can you bring those things, those elements into this new lifestyle, instead of having to abandon yourself and abandon all of the things that are genuinely important for you just in the sake of this lifestyle.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love that you have that action item of making that list, because I think that is so important. I think some of that does come with time as you travel and you realize like, oh, I need an oven, I need a blender. But I do think, like having those things that are non-negotiables for you that are just needed in order for you to thrive. For you, it's the oven. For me, it's the rooms. Like everyone, it's different. But, and like before starting this journey, I would have never thought like, oh, I need a 2 or 3 bedroom place or a place with an office or whatever. Like it's like, no, a studio is fine. It's just 2 people. But you don't think about these things until they come up and then they become an issue. So yeah, I think a combination of like just living the lifestyle and then having that list and adding to it as you go on. But I think that is a really great way to kind of end the episode on that action item. Do you have any other things that you want to say on this topic before we end off?
I think it's really to do, yeah, like you do you, don't get caught up in the social media comparison. This is the shoulds, quote unquote, like the shoulding, I should do this. This is what it should look like. I should do the camper van. If I'm staying for 1 year in a place, it means that I'm not a digital nomad. Like there are no rules in this world, you do you make it work for you. And I think that when you, I don't know, I always say that like when you allow yourself to show up in your uniqueness and in your unique way of doing life or being a digital nomad, you also give that permission slip to other people, So like when you talk about how you have to stay like for 1 month and then you want to move away, and when I can talk about having to stay for 3 months, maybe longer, this allows people to realize that it's okay, whatever shape it takes, it's okay. And I think that yeah, I think this is my final message is like the shape doesn't matter. It's all about making it work for you and not how it should look like on the outside, for sure. What
Yeah,
about you?
absolutely. I totally agree. I could not have said it better. To really just figure out and be aligned. And, like we talked about, figure out your lifestyle design and what that life looks like for you. And it's very easy, like you said, to be influenced on social media, but it's also important to remember that that's only a small piece of what is actually happening. Like people could be traveling a new place every week and hate it and be so depressed. You don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. So I think really just being intuitive, having that lifestyle design as a goal of what you want your life to look like, but also being flexible and knowing that that can change and that's okay. If you don't reach that goal and it changes into something else, then that's also okay and that's part of the journey.
Yes, allowance of change. That is like a big thing as well. It can start off looking like something, and then in the middle it can look like something else, and then it can, like just allow it to evolve with yourself as well, because it will, and that's okay. That's really
Yeah,
important.
exactly. Perfect. Great last words to end off on. So, all of our links are down below if you want to connect with myself or Cami. Everything is down below. Check out her podcast as well, The Blossom Experiment. And we will see you next week for another episode of Digital Nomad Digest. If this episode has served you in any way, I would love it if you shared what you've learned or a part of the episode that you loved by tagging me on Instagram at nomadniques. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and leave a 5-star review so that I can continue to bring you educational content, learn, and grow together. Thank you for your support and see you in the next episode of the Work, Wealth, and Travel podcast.